Hello, and welcome to the Wooden Ball Show. I'm your host, Dave Ball, also known as Blinson on Reddit, at Blinson1 on Twitter. And like always, I am joined by Blake, who is known as at ShatMyKirk on Twitter and BTownBomb on Reddit. Today we are joined by Jordan and Daniel. You can follow Jordan on Twitter at Rhythm Malfunction and on Reddit as Rhythm Malfunction also.
It's Rit Malfunction on Twitter.
Yeah, R-I-T.
R-Y-T.
Malfunction. And you can follow Daniel at Jump to Shark on Twitter and Reddit. And so how are you guys doing today?
Very good.
I'm doing alright.
Very good.
Good. So before we get into well, first off, we're going to be talking about the Jets and Senators today on our show. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about a little bit of quick hits that have gone on in the NHL recently. Well, the first thing that happened today was David Booth signs a one-year deal with the Leafs that's worth 1.1 mil. He's basically he's gone there to try to revitalize his career, it seems.
Well, that's not the best place to go to revitalize careers.
It worked for Mason Raymond, didn't it?
Well, yeah, that is true.
But it hasn't worked for, David Clarkson.
No.
Well, he's got a persona now. I mean, he's the water bottle police, so that's a start.
That is
Yeah.
true. He does have a thing now.
So, David Clarkson is the kind of player that, like, after he goes to Toronto, he's going to need to revitalize his career, because that's
But where
not
do you
going
go to
anywhere.
revitalize your career after Toronto?
Oh, Detroit,
Dallas.
probably.
Dallas? No, that's where the Senators go.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it. They go to Boston, they go to Detroit, they go to Dallas. Basically just everywhere
Yeah,
else.
Toronto goes to Boston. That's where they get a career. So you might go to Boston.
Oh. I'd
So
be
David
okay with
Clarkson
him
to
going to
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to fill the hole that Sean Thornton left.
So
What are
Sean
they going to
Thornton
do
used,
without Sean Thornton?
well, Sean Thornton used a water bottle to hurt somebody. I don't
Yeah,
think.
and now they
I don't
need-
think they need someone to not do that. So they're bringing in Clarkson.
Confirmed Clarkson to the Bruins for a first.
For like
I'd
what?
be okay with that.
Yeah, for like 3 first rounds. Come on, he's worth 3 first rounds.
3 first rounds for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
Another
yeah,
thing
David Booth. I'd say it's a fairly okay signing. He's,
for-
Low risk.
yeah,
Yeah, it's low risk. 1.1 million 1 year. If he doesn't work out, then it's whatever. He's gone.
exactly. It's not like it hurts them that much. They're trying to keep under the cap, but like it's 1.1's not that big a deal. And like you said, if it doesn't work out, they can just let him go.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, he had 31 goals and 29 assists.
Well,
I mean, and he
didn't
was on the
Clarkson
Panthers.
have 30 goals one year?
Yeah, well,
Doesn't mean a lot anymore.
does it? Yeah, so we'll see what happens with him. Another thing happened: Ryan O'Reilly now re-signed for 2 years, worth 12 million, and he avoided salary arbitration now. I think it's a pretty good deal for Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That one interested me the most because it definitely sounded like, he wasn't going to get what he had hoped for and would be somewhere else by this time.
I mean, that's why I signed the 2-year deal, so he could get out of RFA status and can leave, I feel.
Which
Mhm.
that was a whole fiasco on its own. That was just
Oh my God.
strange to watch.
I mean, last time he signed a contract, he went to salary arbitration, but I think that one was team elected. And this one, he was about to do player elected arbitration. Or it was reversed, one of the two, but still. Arbitration is not fun because it's basically the team saying why you're horrible.
Yeah.
And that does not do well for a player.
That's never going to increase like chemistry with like that's not you don't want your technical like what is your boss to be like, well, you're awful, so we're going to pay you not as much as you want to be paid.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing to the buyout, I think, where like you actually some people be like, "Oh man, this player got paid this much money to, be sent away." It's like, yeah, the team dislikes you so much, they will pay you to not play for them. That's not
Oh,
a good
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
It doesn't make you feel good.
Or, I mean, for that type of thing, it could be because, like how Danny Briere was bought off by the Flyers. He was bought out because we loved him, but his cap hit was not worth his point salary.
Right, exactly, yeah.
There's a difference between we don't want you to play and we don't feel like you're, I guess, good enough to play. I guess it's actually kind of the same thing.
That's a fair point, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like the team's like saying you're not worth it,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
So, this is never a good thing.
No. And yeah, it just seems like Ryan O'Reilly and contracts do not get along very well.
Whereas Ryan O'Reilly and the Avalanche with contracts.
That's true.
Because remember,
Are you telling me?
Paul Stastny didn't want to play there anymore.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
could just not be a fun organization from within, for all we know.
It's probably
Yeah,
more fun with Patrick
everyone really
Wahlman
likes
on the
them.
bench, though.
I don't know if it's more fun as entertaining, as you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, your coach almost throws the middle divider down on somebody.
On Bruce
In his first
Boudreau.
game. First game.
Yeah.
The first
And
game-
surely it's only entertaining from the outside. If I was an Avs fan and looking at that, I'd be like, oh my god.
No, I've watched Peter Laviolette do some things like that, like when he jumped over the bench to start yelling at Dan Bylsma. That was hilarious. It's one of the things is you love
God.
seeing passion from your coach.
Yeah,
And
I know a
showing
lot of
that he
Avs fans
cares.
really liked it. Like, they were all pretty happy about just Patrick Waugh's passion about it.
I mean, it
Especially
shows
after
that he loves the team. He's
Yep.
pissed off about what's happening, and he's trying to do something about it.
his team just won 6-2 over the Ducks in the first game of the season, and he's just raving mad.
He wants
At
us
that
to be
point, you
better.
just gotta let it slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Chris Kreider and the New York Rangers also avoid salary arbitration by having a 2-year contract worth $2.53 million.
He was
I think that's really good.
He was definitely one of their top
Definitely.
people in the playoffs
Mhm.
with the lack of the play
Yeah.
of their top 4 players.
Oh yeah.
Rick Nash.
Hate that
Kreider
guy.
really stepped up in that role.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And he had to. It's like he was, I wouldn't say the sole reason that they took out the Canadians, but he
Definitely
was
took out Carey
burning
Price.
his- Oh, I was trying to avoid that, and then I said it, and it's like, damn
All
it.
right, I apologize. I'll try to avoid those.
But yeah.
Regardless, he was burning our defense left and right. And it's like, if you're going to let him skate around you like that, you got no chance. It's not like Tokarski played poorly either. It was like, I put a lot of our onus on the defense.
Yeah.
Tokarski played an amazing series.
Mhm.
He played better than anyone thought he would. So
Mhm.
No, the problem
Oh,
is
yeah.
that he just didn't score on Lundqvist.
I mean, he's not Carey Price, but he did as good as you can expect a goalie to play.
Yeah.
Probably
his
better, yeah.
As a rookie in his first playoff series.
Yeah.
Oh, he played on his head. The
But-
difference between him and Price was Price changes games. Tokarski kept them in it, but I think the Habs really needed someone to turn that momentum with a huge save that Tokarski couldn't offer them because
Yeah.
he's still which is fine. You can't really expect a goalie to do that when you have you can expect it out of Carey Price, who's a gold medal winning goalie, but you can't expect it out of a rookie named Dustin Tokarski. So,
Yeah, goalies can only do so much.
oh, exactly.
I still think he made a lot of actually incredible saves. The problem was he was against Henrik Lundqvist, who's Henrik Lundqvist, so he just makes
Nothing.
even more of those saves.
What's that mean? Henrik Lundqvist is Henrik Lundqvist. He's not that good.
I don't understand why people call him the king. Can someone explain that to me quick?
I don't understand either. He is the king without a crown.
I can understand Trey Cronor, and then when you call him the king when he's playing with Sweden, but he has won nothing. So
Him being
Yeah,
Swedish
I
just
don't
lends itself to it, I guess.
apparently,
I don't understand either, but that may be because I'm blind as a Flyers fan.
Apparently, Carlson has a similar thing at times. Dean Brown, the commentator for Sportsnet, says it now and then. I don't know where it comes from. Just apparently being Swedish, it just involves getting called king at times.
Being the royal.
everyone gets
I
a
don't-
crown.
I don't remember the last time we called Patrick Berglund king. We never called Patrick Berglund king. So
You have to be really
probably
good though.
because, yeah. I mean, he's not bad, but he's not really great either.
We should probably talk about Kreider a bit more.
Yes.
We have to.
I really like the signing.
Yeah,
It's
But
an
the only issue
excellent
I have with
signing.
it is
yeah, they have
the
a very
arbitration thing.
Mhm. I mean, it was not with him. You don't want to go salary arbitration with him. With
No.
the type of player he is, he's a heart and soul player. You definitely need him to be happy, and he probably wasn't going to be happy if you did the salary arbitration.
Oh, definitely. There's at least a couple teams out there, that could really fit his game.
And I think he was playing on their third line, which was massive for them in the playoffs. So Did
which
they
is what you
lose
need
at
to
all?
get deep, though.
Yeah. You need the depth to get deep.
Yeah,
Oh god.
everything is coming to light now.
We have the depth. Why aren't we going deep?
Because you're the Blues, you win nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how many,
I'll never
you know
be
how many
happy.
Stanley Cups the Blues have? The same as the Jets.
Oh,
And the Sens.
I feel left out of
Correct.
the conversation now.
Oh,
My
I'm
team
so
has two.
sorry.
It's
feel
so
for
horrible
you.
for us Flyers fans. We have
it's
two
our
cups.
it's our
Even though they're
exclusive
40 years
club,
old.
Dave. You can't join.
So Blake, how's it feel to be the last people from the 1967 NHL draft to not have a cup?
It feels kind of interesting, to say the least.
Anyway, we were talking about Chris Kreider.
Yes.
It's a good deal. Definitely
Yeah,
a good.
good deal.
Yeah.
Okay. All in agreement, good deal?
Oh yeah.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it.
Mm-hmm.
Unanimous.
So now we're moving into the Winnipeg Jets
Oh,
section.
no.
Yay!
So first off, Jordan, since you're a resident Jets fan, how much did you cry this season?
I just keep living back to the 7-2 win over the Dallas Stars, where we made them look like a complete joke of a team, and that's just how I get by sometimes.
The only way you get by?
Literally the only way I get by. Oh, that and then Michael Clutchinson.
Okay.
There's hope. There's hope.
That's not his real name.
It doesn't matter. He dragged the Ice Caps kicking and streaming through the Calder Cup playoffs. So I refer to him as Clutchinson.
Okay, next question. What do you think was the biggest problem you guys had this season?
Is that a real question?
Yes. I want you to have a detailed list of everything that went wrong.
A detailed list of Andre Pavlik. Okay. Let's start with his terrible positioning, his terrible goals against average, and his terrible save percentage. Is that detailed? Do I have to?
I think you gotta go into it a little bit more.
Okay, well, that and our unbelievable lack of depth with our bottom six.
Mm.
When Scheifele went, we were doing excellent after we got Paul Maurice and before the Olympic break, but then we lose Scheifele and Jokinen didn't work as our second line center because he was a finisher.
Yeah.
He's someone who relies on getting a
He
good
relies on
pass and
scoring.
scoring.
Yeah.
And he needs the support to do that, but he can't support someone like Kane, and Kane can't support him back. They both want to score. They're hockey players who are built to score, and when you got him playing at your second line center, it doesn't work very well because they're both trying to finish and nobody's making that pass.
Yeah. So.
And then with our revolving door of right wings, I think it was at one point the line was Kane, Scheifele, Wheeler, which was beautiful. I loved that line. Based on how fast it was. But then when it became, I can't remember if we changed it up with Frolik, but it just did not work with Jokinen playing second line center.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of our bottom six is just not very good either. Thorburn, I don't like the contract we gave him. I'm going to live in ignorance of it for now.
1.2 till 27.
Shut up. I don't want to, no. 3 more years of that crap. I love the guy, and he works hard, but you got to work hard and put up at least a handful of points on the fourth line. I'm not saying go out there and be a 20-point goal getter, but he's out there to punch faces, and he doesn't do that.
Oh, is he your enforcer?
Enforcer is used very lightly there, but yes.
I mean, he got 11 points.
James Slater.
He got 11 points for you last year, Thorborn.
It's not too bad, but we did need him to step up a few times.
Yeah.
I remember in our first year, he made a really, really disgusting goal, and I guess people are trying to relive that through him, but it's that's a once-a-career goal for a guy like that. I think it was on Ryan Miller. He skated up the wing, bounced it off of Miller's pads, took his own rebound, and buried it.
That was an awesome goal.
It was unreal, and you'll never see that out of him again. But people Winnipeg is the fan base is always looking for a scapegoat, and after Pavlik, I believe it's now Thorburn. So
if he's on your fourth line, you can't expect that much from him.
No, we can't. But
Seriously?
Winnipeg expects the moon and back sometimes.
I mean, it's a fourth line player. They're like players that should be energy line players, I guess, is the best way to put
I
it.
just don't think he's really giving us the energy you want out of a guy like that. Like,
Yeah.
what I want to believe is that he had some injury troubles that he didn't want to report, like
Mhm.
something minor enough to say like, okay, well, I can keep playing through this, I'll get better with time. But then it's like, if you're gonna keep playing, it's not getting better. And so he laid off on his hitting, on his like energetic plays, and it just wore down on him, kind of thing. That's all
Oh,
like hypothetical, though. I don't think he was. I
yeah.
don't know if he was actually injured. So.
Okay, so. And what do you think was the best thing that happened this season?
Well, apart from the beautiful, beautiful destruction of the Dallas Stars, uh, I was actually in attendance of this game, but we were the first team in the Central Division to beat the Blues, and I believe it was in November, and we
Yes.
beat them in the shootout.
In a shootout, Brian.
Unfortunately,
That's
Barely
why you
counts
don't.
as a win. Barely
That's
counts
why
as
you
a
don't start Brian Elliott that early in the season.
I know that feeling.
Which, of course, we're going to do next year. But, hey. Anyway, back to Winnipeg.
You guys gave up Halak for him, so gave up Halak, so yes, Winnipeg. That's all I have from the past season. So we're going to head into the off season now. So some of your biggest losses this summer were Al Montoya and Ali Jokinen. You guys think that you'll be able to like have someone step into their places?
with Al Montoya, I absolutely think we'll find someone to step into his place. Although Andre Pavlik is a horrendous starting goalie, the last 3 games, I believe he played 3 games last season. Michael Hutchinson
Okay.
is played like excellently for us to close out the season. Very stable in net, calm. His positioning looked really good. I didn't get quite to catch his last. Or I caught one of his games. I think it was against Calgary, and I was watching, and he looked good.
Okay.
With the team, like, it's just a matter of getting. I feel like he's got to earn Paul Maurice's trust.
Yeah.
Because 3 games is a very small sample size in the NHL, but he did drag the Ice Caps, virtually kicking and screaming through the Calder Cup playoffs.
Is he going to be your guys' goaltender of the future?
I believe it'll be between him and Hellebuck. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. It's spelled
Yeah,
weird.
it looks like it's. I mean, I am horrible with pronouncing names, so I'm not going to try, but it looks like that's correct. If you ever listen to any of our past shows, especially during the look back at the trade deadline, I was terrible with names.
Yeah, but with him, I can't remember. I think it was him. He had as many shutouts as he had losses in the NCAA. And I mean, I'm really, really happy about drafting players out of the NCAA because we have Jacob Trouba.
Okay.
Trouba is going to be a stud, and it's going to be amazing. As for Olli Jokinen, though, I think it's going to be a little tougher for us to get that center depth.
Mhm.
'Cause I believe Matthew Perreault is a winger.
They have him listed as center on.
They have him listed as center.
On a Cap Geek, so.
Oh, maybe we'll be okay.
Yeah, he's listed as center on Cap Geek, so.
But with that, we did also sign a handful of our top line players again from the Ice Caps. John Albert, namely, on the third and fourth line role, he was excellent. I remember his first game he scored on his. It wasn't his first shot. That's wrong, but he did score in his first game. He ripped it like a good shot past Cam Talbot, and he looked good that like the few games he played with us in our Eastern Conference stint.
Mhm.
And I think like given the opportunity, he could earn that bottom 6 spot. I don't know if he'll be able to step into like top 6, but as long as they stay healthy with Little and Scheifele, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. So.
Hopefully, anyways. But like, let's get real here. We're the Jets, so.
And he is listed as center, by the way. Perreault. He is a center.
Okay.
So you guys have a second line center now.
Oh, third line.
Third line.
Well, our top 2 are Brian Little, followed by Scheifele.
Okay. I was just looking at the Cap Geek, and they have Scheifele all the way down at the bottom of your 4, so they don't consider him that big of a depth person, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know why he played on our second line all season.
I mean, they do have Dustin Byfuglien as a right winger. So.
Well, we did move him to right wing too.
Was
so.
he moved to right wing in the end?
Yeah, he plays defense on the power play for his
Okay.
shot. So.
Would you rather Byfuglien as a defenseman or a winger?
I like him on the wing because we threw him on right wing, and that's where we have a lot of our issues.
Okay.
I mean, our right wings are Wheeler, Frolik, or Frolik isn't even signed yet.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's hopefully Frolik, Wheeler, and Bufflin, and I guess the revolving door of right wings at the bottom four. But
Yeah.
with that, I think Bufflin could fit in well, maybe not on the top line, but if our second line becomes Lad Little Bufflin, like I'm anticipating it will,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. Because he's a smart player and he makes like half decent passes. You just don't want him to make risky passes on a breakout in the defensive zone.
Because at least as a right winger, he has someone behind him at least. So.
Exactly. It's not as bad.
Mm.
He's very similar to Erik Karlsson
Okay.
when he plays defense. Like he scores he puts up a ton of points on defense, but the defensive aspect isn't there where you need it.
Okay.
Like not entirely. Like don't get me wrong, they're both excellent defensemen, but you still like when you're looking at a good defenseman in the NHL, like you look at Shea Weber. That guy puts up tons of points and still completely like dominates in the defensive zone. Like, and he's arguably the best defenseman in the NHL.
Oh, definitely. He is definitely one of the best. But so one thing I like about Bufflin is he's not a fast player, so I feel like he would do good on that second line that you made.
Yeah,
Not
because
terribly.
our top line, or what I'm hoping are, okay, well, I'm going to explain the lines, just what I hope they are next season. I want our first line to be Kane, Scheifele, Wheeler, because Wheeler's got that power move that you need and is still a goal scorer. Kane's got the speed and the shot, hopefully anyways, that you want out of your left winger, and then Scheifele's a playmaking center. Like he'll pass it
Set
to
them
make
both
that.
up.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and he's not one to battle in front of the net, but regardless, like he's still, in my opinion, he's still young. I believe he's 20 years old, maybe 21. So he's got tons of time to like grow as a player and fit into a top line role.
Yeah, he's 21 right now.
Yeah. And then with our second line, which would hopefully be Lad Little and then Bufflin, they're more of like they're not really like that fast, speedy rush line. They're more of a set up plays, cycle, and score kind of thing.
They're basically a grind down the team, throw bodies at the net, and we'll hopefully get goals type of thing.
And possession playing, like they don't score like these dirty goals. Like I do remember a few years back with Lad. Lad has an excellent shot, and like I do remember him scoring a lot of like pretty goals with like just nice shots.
Mm-hmm.
But they're never going to be pretty goals where he dangles around the defender. It's going to be set up a play, cycle it around, get someone out of position, shoot, and hope for a goal. Or like, I mean, not really hope for a goal, but like get that quality shot.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely good. Who do you think will be on your third line?
Third line is tough because it's just there's so many
like possibilities.
Yeah, like with some of our signings, like I mean, we signed a lot of guys to two-way contracts and one-way contracts, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think. I think our left wing depth is half decent, but I definitely think Matthew Perreault will be playing center for us on our third line. I mean, he's not like I haven't seen a lot out of him. I didn't watch a lot of the Ducks. But from the highlights I did see, he's more of a player to get into position and then like score a dirty goal or get that good pass and be where he needs to be to bury it.
Okay.
So, as for wingers and stuff, I think I want to say Eric Tangradi could possibly play that third line left wing, but to be totally honest, Tangradi's not that good.
I mean, for a third line, you want him more of as a defensive role. Is he a good defensive player?
I want to say yeah. He's not like irresponsible or anything, but I believe like he needs to work on like the issue I think we have with our bottom six is our lack of ability to be like breakout passes and stuff like that, like getting out of our own zone or continuing possession in their zone. We're a team that's very one and done, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that one shot, possession's turned over, and we don't get to like keep piling it on to the other team's goalie.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, making that initial save is never that hard.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. And since you already talked about, it, we'll go into the next topic. Just let your Pavlik hate out. Just let it out.
Oh my god. Actually burns me so bad that we explicitly said, like, Kevin Cheveldayoff explicitly outright said this in his words, Andre Pavlik is our goaltender going forward.
Oh.
Just, oh.
I mean, there was a post on Reddit today that I saw, and they said Pavlik could be the reason you guys get McDavid next year. It could be a smart play to keep him in your net. What do you think about that type of thing, if you're thinking of it that way?
I don't want McDavid. I'd love to have McDavid, but I just don't think we're bad enough to get McDavid. I think there are teams that are going to be infinitely worse than us.
You don't have to be the worst team. You just have to be out of the playoffs.
That's true, but you want your chances to be high to get that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, the first overall has a better chance to not get McDavid than they have to get McDavid. They only have a 25% chance to get it themselves, so that's a 75% chance they could lose it. I mean, you want the better chance, but still, it's a better chance that it could go to somebody else, and it could be your guys. So you
That's
never know.
true. I don't know. I just don't. The way we're building this team, I don't think I want to build it around like some superstar young kid. We're not trading, we're not looking to sign all these free agents because it's hard for us to sign free agents. And the way I think we're going about it, and what seems to be the pattern here, is to draft well, be patient, build the team from the ground, and get like players that belong to Winnipeg and only Winnipeg, as most of our team was still the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I can't say I can complain about that too much. Like, I do still appreciate just having a team here, but people seem to want us, and by people I mean like a lot of the general fan base, wants us to build this team right now, sign every free agent, get every player, and it's like...
It's hard to get people to go to Winnipeg because it's so cold.
It is. It's
like,
freezing here, and it's like, it's hard to find the charm in this city. Like, in the winter, it's tough to find things to do because it is cold. You can't do things outside. Summer is a different story, but most players go home now. They don't live in the city through the summer.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah, their thoughts about the city are it's always cold. So who knows
Exactly.
what's going to happen there. Next question. How do you feel about the Kane trade rumors, and do you think he's going to stay through the rest of his contract?
I think you're a jerk for putting this as a question. Just based on how open I am about all the bullshit revolving around Evander Kane.
That's exactly why I put it, because I see exactly what you say.
Oh, man. But I think he does want to play here. I don't think he would sign a 6-year deal to not want to play here.
I mean, he did favorite a tweet about him going to the Flyers.
And Steven Stamkos favorited a tweet about going to Toronto.
And that's
But
why
look at the
it's still
difference
blowing
in...
up.
Yeah, it's blowing up a lot less than it did with Kane.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that-
it's because Kane has had his problems with Winnipeg. Stamkos
No,
hasn't had his
Winnipeg has had its problems with Kane.
Yeah,
Kane
that's what I
has
meant. Yeah,
done
it's backwards. Yeah, I got that backwards.
absolutely nothing. Well, okay, maybe the money phone was a little iffy, but he's still a 20-year-old dude
still
making
funny.
like $5 million a year. Like, don't act like that's don't act high and mighty during like, oh, you're on a strike, you shouldn't be flaunting money like that. It's like, dude was in Vegas, like.
He was trying to be funny, and that's what he was. Like,
Yeah, it was hilarious, but then people take it totally out of proportion. They're like, wow, how would you do that? That's unbelievable. And it's like, shut up, Gary Lawless. Nobody cares what you think.
Trust me, I understand. We had Buckgate situation going on here recently. Plus, we had the Dry Island situation. So I understand media blowing things out of proportion.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's what
It happens. I do hope he stays, but I also remember. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I remember an Instagram picture he posted after Giroux touched somebody's butt. He posted, what if that was, like, on Instagram with hashtag saying, like, what if that was me, and, like, Winnipeg media, and it's like, dude makes such a good point. Like, if it was him, could you imagine the complete shitstorm that would come out of this? Like, it would be not constantly people being like, "It's unbelievable he did that while he was out drinking at home," or blah 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 blah. And it's like, just lay off the guy. Like Giroux does it, and everyone's like, "Ha ha ha! It's so funny." But
You didn't see the Philadelphia media.
I did. Oh, I didn't. So were they like really harsh on him?
There was one or two of them where just like, how could he do this? He should be training right now. Why is he out there drinking in the middle of the day? There's nothing to celebrate going on right now. You guys didn't win the cup. Why is he celebrating?
That's not cool. Because wasn't that on Canada Day?
My first thought was, it was Canada Day. He has to celebrate. It's Canada Day.
Ugh.
But yeah.
And at the same time, it's like training is maybe a few hours a day. Like,
plus
off-season training is never going to consume an entire day for these guys.
And it was July. It's like pretty far from the day he has to be ready by.
Regardless, he should be training all summer. And I'm sure he is training. But
yeah,
like,
he probably is,
there's tons of time to have, like, when you have a professional trainer, like, I guarantee that they'll make time, like, for him.
Yeah.
Versus, like, you make time for your trainer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you're paying, like, big bucks for stuff like that. Like, when I was in Gary Lawless's gym, like, the guys there, I got to watch a bunch of CHL players and, like, a couple, I forget who it was. I think it might have been, I got to see one of the Blues. I think it was BJ Crombie. But, like, he's not the all-star that Gary Lawless is, or Gary Lawless, wow. Sorry, Gary Roberts is aiming to train.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary Lawless training is kind of a funny thought to me. But yeah, I'm kind of deviating here, so.
Yeah. But yeah, Kane, you don't think he's gonna leave?
I don't think so, and I think if he does leave, it's gonna be someone overpaying for him because we're not gonna sell low. We know he's young and we know he's got potential. He has had a 30-goal season. I don't think he'll have one again because goals are becoming more and more scarce as teams are building not so much around one superstar. They're building like you need depth to build a good team.
Yeah, everyone's kind of out.
Exactly, and I don't think we're going to see many, if any, 60 goal scorers anytime soon.
Oh yeah, I mean it's tough when people just get to 50. Like there was a big deal when Stamkos got to 50 a couple of years ago.
60, wasn't it?
I
remember he scored his. It was 60. I remember I saw it in Winnipeg.
I know. I knew it was over 50. I just didn't think he reached 60. So.
I think he just hit 60, if I remember right.
He did, yeah.
Okay.
He hit 60 that year on the last game of the season, and Malkin hit 50 as well.
Yeah.
That was like it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, it's his goals are becoming more scarce, and I don't think Kane will hit 30 goals again. And it's like, people like to bring stuff up like, well, he hasn't hit a 30-goal season since blah, 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 like 2011. It's like, yeah, but look at the rest of the league. Like, individual goal scoring is going down. Not goal scoring as a whole per game, but just for individuals.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah,
I think he stays. He's definitely a player that you build around.
And we've been trying. We really have. Like, we got Jokinen to try and get his act together and stuff like that. Didn't pan out, but we tried.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
How do you guys think you did in the draft?
I think we did okay. From what I'm seeing with, like, the big name we got with Nikolai Ehlers, I believe you pronounce it, he won a pizza-making contest, so, like, 10 out of 10, I want this guy on the team. And also to open a pizzeria.
Okay.
But I think drafting is just the same as we do every year, and it's not so much we're picking guys who are projected to go a little later, but Kevin Cheveldayoff has done a whole lot with drafting for character. I'm going to stick with our first round picks because those are our big ones. Those are the ones playing for our team. Trouba is an absolute, like, I've been at work and I've been in a room, like, a pretty big room with him, but he just brightens it up kind of thing. Like, he seems like a very, like, outgoing guy, and unfortunately I haven't met him before, but, like, he has a good personality. Like, even following him through social media, after he hurt his neck and was out for, I want to say about a month towards the beginning of the season, he tweeted right after, he's like, just for future notice, the boards are not edible. And it's like, having someone who can laugh at stuff like that is great.
Yeah.
And I mean, he plays with a lot of heart. And I'm not saying that, and that's not like a hard thing to come across in the NHL. but it's a hard thing to come across when you have when you're on a losing team, which I'm kind of going back to Kane a little bit, but I do find Kane is still busting his ass off every play, or maybe not every play, but I do notice him when we're losing games and it's starting to look like we can't come back. He's still skating as hard as he possibly can to try and make a difference. Even if he doesn't, it's like I've noticed that the effort is always there, which is probably a really cheap thing to say in the NHL because everyone's always putting in that effort. But I found it a little more noticeable with Kane, and the same with Trouba and Scheifele and our young guys.
They're trying to show that they belong in the NHL.
Exactly. Their position is definitely not cemented yet because Scheifele and Trouba are coming out of their rookie years, and they've done excellent. They did good for their rookie years. Kane is still trying to show, hey, I earned that contract, and I think he's doing a good job of it. But even though people are looking for him to just put up points, I think he's become more responsible in the defensive zone as well.
Okay.
So
more of a well-rounded player.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with the draft, I do think I'm trying not to deviate. I'm doing that a lot because it's gone from talking about the Jets to talking about how Jordan feels about Evander Kane. But we did get a lot of what I liked the most about the draft is that we picked up Chase DeLeo. And he has this incredible bromance going on with Eric Comrie, and they have the most adorable contract ever from when they were 8. They're like, we will both make it to the NHL, and they both signed it, and it's it's like a dream coming true. It's actually kind of happening. And it's I think it fits again into our character players. We have you have a lot of guys on teams like Boston. I loathe Boston as a team, but that is a team built with a lot of depth and a lot it's a well-built team, and there's no denying that. But they have a lot of truly passionate players in the community and stuff like that, Patrice Bergeron, namely. That guy is embedded in Boston for the rest of his life, and he said that outright. And I think that's what Cheveldayoff is looking to get out of some of our younger picks. Look, you came to Winnipeg, we drafted you, we treated you right, we want you here till you're done. Okay. And I believe if we can get just one guy to explicitly be I love this city, I love playing here, I don't want to leave, it'll help entice other people to be well, so and so played there. Jacob Trouba played in the international team for the U.S. and he's won a lot of I believe they won World Juniors last year, and it's these guys know everybody else in the community. So it's if you see that team and you got players that you liked playing with on this team, it'll help. Maybe we can get a Parise Suter situation going on and get some huge UFAs. I don't know. That's probably a huge stretch, but our drafting has always been about character.
Okay. So, how do you? Now we're gonna head into the next season section. And how do you feel about the season coming up?
If you go to my Twitter account and you check the pinned tweet that I have, it literally says that we would be picking in the top 5. I tweeted it on July 1st, and I am leaving it there until we finish next season. If I am wrong, I will happily eat my words, but...
can we have you eat something else that we could actually video?
I'm not eating a hat. No.
Okay, fine.
I will make a Jets cookie, and I will eat it. You can quote
fine.
that.
That is quoted. Going on Twitter right now. Okay, so we'll head into the next question as I type this. I guess you guys think you're going to be sellers at the deadline if you are going to be doing anything.
That's the iffy part there. We never do anything. Cheveldayoff I like him as a general manager for the most part, but we have never made any big acquisitions come the trade deadline because I believe he's looking for some pretty high prices for our players, which I would enjoy, but sometimes you gotta trade those high players and then come down a little bit to get that depth you need at the bottom 6. But at the same time, I believe he's not willing. Everyone's trying to leverage things with a draft pick here and a draft pick there, and I just don't believe that Cheveldayoff is willing to give up a lot of picks. Like, we made the mistake of giving up a couple second rounders for Devin Setaguchi, and I mean, look where that went.
Tuh.
So, not
Okay.
really looking to give up more second round picks for another Devin Setaguchi.
Yeah, I only want to give them up for a player that you know is going to be good.
Yeah, we don't want someone like slumping or who's like a little down on their career. Like
Mm-hmm.
Cheveldayoff does not seem like a guy who just gives away at anyone, and he does seem to have like a good relationship with players as well.
I mean, if people go to the Jets, they can kind of see that they're not really willing to give someone up unless they're blown away by a deal.
Yeah,
That's kind of the way I see the Jets. I don't think they really have traded anybody. When
we've
they have
never made any big deals.
And you guys
We
have constantly
trade
re-signed players. So.
Signed small-time UFAs, but I do remember one distinct like moment at the MTS Center. Like I mentioned, I saw Troop at work, but I should probably clarify that I do work at the MTS Center. So I see a couple of the players on like off days there, like in the change or like going to the change room, stuff like that. I don't see it a lot, but I remember there was, I believe it was the circus or something along those lines, the day after we fired Claude Noel. And I saw Kevin Cheveldayoff walking around the concourse before we opened the doors to the public, and he just did not look like he was in a good mood. Like, I want to believe that he actually develops like a good friendship with these maybe not like a friendship, but like a good relationship with his staff and his like his players and stuff like that. So he has a hard time trading them off and shipping them away.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's always possible.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think your timetable is going to be for you to get back to the playoffs? Like
That
how
is
long it will
so
be?
tough. Because the last time the organization, or like the franchise as a whole between the Thrashers and the Jets have made the playoffs was 2004.
I thought it was 2007.
2007?
Was
Maybe
it?
I'm thinking.
I'm looking this up.
I'm fairly new as a hockey fan. I got into it in 2010, so it's still before my
I
time.
feel like it was 2007.
It very well might be.
2006, 2007, they were division champs. The only time they made the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they got swept.
Yeah.
And since then, we've been close as the Jets, but we are definitely one key out of the playoffs. And as much as everyone likes to believe it's Pavlek, it's not just him, it's Pavlek as well as our bottom six. So we got to let our young guys grow, and we got to let our young guys step it up, and we got to ship off Pavlek. Which is going to be tough because he's childhood friends with Michael Frolik, and I'm pretty sure that's the only reason Frolik was okay with ending up in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So if I had to give it a definitive time, with the way the Central looks next year and how they'll probably look the year after, I want to say at least 3 years.
Okay, so.
But it'll be a half decent. Yeah, I think it'll be like a half decent run though. Like we're not going like Western Conference Finals, but we're certainly going to get our first franchise playoff win. So like that's a thing.
It'll only be like 4-1 loss in the first round.
Yeah, it's fine as long as we get a playoff win. I'll take it. That's all I want.
Okay. And now for more of the kind of fun questions, I guess. Who do you think is going to score the most goals on your team next year?
I'm going to say Blake Wheeler.
Okay.
Because he's that. How many?
Yeah.
Ooh. That's tough.
I'm going to quote you on this, so you better be right.
Oh, man. Hang on, let me pull up his stats from last season so I can get like a good idea of what's happening here. Excuse me.
He had 28 goals, 41 assists for 69 points.
Dude, I bet he could put up 30.
30?
Yeah, I'm going for it. I'm going to say Wheeler's going to break 30 for next year. He's 27. He's in his prime. He's probably going to get top-line minutes. And he's unreal sometimes. Like I remember so many instances of him blowing past the defense and making just beautiful power moves. And he puts up similar stats to Anze Kopitar. And Kopitar is like a world-class player kind of thing. So.
Okay, yeah.
I think
it's possible. It's possible. Okay, so who do you think is going to get the most points for your team?
Hmm. That's another tough one
Yeah.
because I
Ask some
believe
hard-hitting
our
questions.
um. I'm gonna take a wild card, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be Shifley. Shifley's
Okay.
gonna have this unbelievable sophomore year, and he's gonna put up 80 points.
Especially if he's on the top line, as you're saying he
If
is.
if I if my dreams come true and he gets top line minutes and stays healthy,
Hmm.
I'd be
Between Wheeler
ecstatic.
and Kane, he should be getting points. Because if Wheeler's going to get 30 goals, he's probably going to assist on most of that.
Oh yeah,
So that's maybe like an easy 20 points right there, I want to say.
yeah,
Plus whatever he gets himself and whatever he gives Kane. And
yeah,
whatever other outlying random lineup changes he gets. So,
exactly. And I mean, last year in his rookie season, he put up 34 points in 63 games. So
that's
if he
not
can stay
bad for a
healthy,
rookie season.
yeah, that's almost like that's just about a half a point per game, or
Okay.
just over a half a point per game. But I'm bad at math, so don't quote me on that. Um,
Don't worry, I'm not going to quote you.
but yeah, I think he could easily put up maybe not our top point getter, but I mean that's my wild card pick for this year, so we'll go with that.
Okay. So, I guess, and now my favorite question to ask. Say everything goes to shit, and you lose almost all your games. Who do you think is going to be thrown under the bus, besides Pavlik?
Besides Pavlik, I think it'll be Bufflin, I think it'll be Ladd, and I think it'll be Wheeler.
Okay.
Because those are and Kane. Because those are our top guys, and we always like to point fingers at our top guys.
Okay, yeah. It's usually the top people, so.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking with us. Blake, can you unmute your mic? It's your turn. Blake?
Alrighty. Thank you again, Jordan, for speaking with us about the Winnipeg Jets.
You are welcome.
We'll reset for you listeners. You're listening to the Wooden Ball Show. We are previewing the Winnipeg Jets and the Ottawa Senators this evening for you. You have just heard our host here, Dave, interview Jordan with Winnipeg. And now I officially welcome into the show, into the segment, I welcome Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
Alrighty, Daniel. Now, I know with the Ottawa Senators, we could probably spend just a whole show, just talking about what went wrong with the team, but
Yeah.
we'll I'll ask that you keep it, kind of condensed for these questions here. First, we'll begin with the season that was, the previous season. And just to kick things off here, Daniel, just kind of give us a brief overview, just introduce us to the Ottawa Senators season that was.
There was a lot of frustration going on last season. I don't know if you remember last off season, but pretty much everyone, especially Sens fans, seemed to think, man, we're going to be really good this year. Like, we're going to be, like, battling for the division title, make a run in the playoffs. Like, we could really do some good, mainly because we got Bobby Ryan. And then what happened was Bobby Ryan did all he could. And then we had Clark MacArthur and Kyle Turris. They were, like, our best players. And Erik Karlsson was Erik Karlsson, even though he struggled at times. And then the rest of our team was just... what's the best word for shit? It was shit. It was just they were porous defensively. They couldn't keep a puck out of their net. They couldn't get it out of the zone without turning it over 5 times previously. Our goalies couldn't stop a beach ball. It was just terrible to watch because you saw this promise and then it was just gone in an instant. You would have flashes of brilliance and then the rest was just terrible to watch. It was just really frustrating most of the time.
Okay, and now we'll break down the specific parts of the team and their performance from the previous season. We'll begin with the offense. You start out with Bobby Ryan. He gets injured, but now you have MacArthur and Turris, and then the trade deadline you get Hemsky, and the three of them, they put up some good numbers.
Yeah, so basically, at the start of the season, it was Spezza, McCulloch, Ryan as our quote-unquote top line. everyone thought Ryan and Spezza would light it up. After the first couple games, maybe our team just wasn't doing well as a whole, but they weren't doing much together. So after a few games with Ryan being fairly unsuccessful with Spezza, Ryan was moved with MacArthur and Turris, who already had amazing chemistry, and they started lighting it up. They were by far our best line. And the fun fact was, like, everyone would call them line 2, even though the fact that they got most of the minutes, scored all the goals, and generally just dominated the other team. Like, no matter what, if they were against the best defensive pairing, they'd still do really well. So then there were these stages in the season where that line pretty much stayed consistent through the whole season. Even though Ryan got injured, Terrace and MacArthur were still really good. Spezza never really got his game going until Hemsky came along in the trade deadline, but that's still, like 5 months of hockey where he's not doing very well. And then we had McCulloch, who has, like, his knees are broken at this point. He had a 35-goal season 2 years ago, and since then he can't do anything. Basically, he was riding the coattails of, like, a red-hot Jason Spezza in that year. And last year Spezza was gone. This year he didn't do very well. So McCulloch, as well, didn't do too well. Who else did we have? We had a lot of younger players. We have a lot of depth players. Eric Condra, Zach Smith, Colin Greening. They're fine defensively. Smith and Condra especially. Colin Greening's he's getting paid way too much for what he brings. He makes like $3.25 million for the next 3 years or something, but he put up like maybe 10, 15 points or something like that. Condra and Smith are good on the PK. We have guys like Chris Neal and Matt Cassian, who are the resident face punchers. Neal, he can have flashes of offense, but the years where he put up like 13 goals are far gone. Now he's basically just hit the people, punch the people, get off the ice. Then there were some other forwards who came up and down from our AHL team, Binghamton. We saw Mark Stone come in late in the season. He filled in pretty nicely when Bobby Ryan got injured. Mike Hoffman came up. He was a speedy little kid. He was fun to watch, but you got the feeling that like he's not entirely comfortable in the NHL yet. But it got better as the season went on, and he started putting up some points. Who else do we have? We had Stefan DaCosta, who was like a college free agent signing a few years ago. He had a lot of promise, but never really could get it together. Corey Conacher, I think everyone knows his story. He also had the same issue where he started in the top 6, just couldn't really get it together, was eventually waived and then picked up by Buffalo. And there's probably some other people I'm forgetting, but for the most part, those were the main... Oh, how could I forget him? Mika Zibanejad. He is one of my favorite players, and it's really frustrating to watch him get bounced around the lineup a lot because you could see the promise, but he gets put on like the second line one night, first line another night, and then buried on the fourth line with Matt Cassian. It's just it's strange to watch because you could tell he has the ability to actually like perform very well, but he's rarely put in the situation to perform very well. So that's part of why I'm hoping that next season, when he's almost certainly going to be our second line center, he's going to have a breakout year, I think. That's what everyone hopes, at least. So yeah, those are our forwards. They were not that great for the most part.
Okay, and next would be the defense. You know, from an outsider's standpoint, it looked to just basically be Eric Carlson and company. But since we have an insider now, let's just talk about the defensive unit and what all they did last season.
Well, you basically said it. It was pretty much just Eric Carlson and company, because the company was just a bunch of other defensemen who couldn't hold a candle to Eric Carlson, pretty much offensively or defensively. Like, I know Carlson gets a lot of heat for not being great defensively. I'm obviously gonna say he's better than most people think, but I'm not gonna say he's a Zdeno Chara, Shea Weber, Drew Doughty-esque. No, he's not. That's just reality. But he was probably, in terms of defensive ability, our best defenseman, which is both praise of Carlson and also a knock against the rest of our defensemen, because when Eric Carlson, a 180-pound twig, is doing better defensively than, like, say, Jared Cowan, who's, like, 6'5", 230, and he can't even, like, do anything right last season. It was bad. So, okay, going through the defensemen, Erik Karlsson, don't really need to talk about him. Everyone knows about him. Really, really good hockey player. Usually he was paired with either Mark Mathot or Jared Cowan. Now, I would prefer him paired with Mark Mathot, because Mark Mathot is actually probably our second best defenseman. He's what the modern version of the stay-at-home guy is. He doesn't pinch a lot, he doesn't take rushes up the ice a lot, but he's solid in your own zone, good in front of the net, can clear pucks out of the zone when he needs to. And he can carry the puck, which happened a lot. Or, like, he could carry a puck, whereas most of our other defensemen could not. So then there was Jared Cowan. Jared Cowan, I don't know if you heard about how Ottawa fans see him right now, but he is abysmal. I'm hoping he's going to bounce back. I think like he came back from a season where he was recovering from a hip injury. So I'm hoping that a full offseason will help him when he's fully healthy. But last year he made like some errors in judgment, like just lapses, that you kind of look at it and go, how on earth does an NHL defenseman think that's a good idea? Prime example, I remember him on the penalty kill one time. He was chasing a guy down in the corner because, you know, he's a defenseman. He does that. And then the guy with the puck moves all the way up to the blue line. He is forced nearly out, but doesn't quite get out. Jared Cowan follows him all the way up to the blue line, and then the guy goes back in the zone, and Jared Cowan's out at the blue line. A defenseman on the penalty kill, basically at center ice. That shouldn't really happen. And these happened constantly throughout the season. Just mental lapses that just happened very, very often. What are the other players? We had Patrick Wierkosh, who's actually a favorite of mine, but Paul McLean doesn't seem to like him very much. He puts up good offensive numbers. He's great on the power play. He's not great defensively, but he was no worse than any of our other players. And yet he got sat for like large portions of the season, even though he actually seemed to do some good for our team. We had Chris Phillips. Phillips is an interesting case because he's one of those guys who, like, he's basically going to be a lifer for the team. The team wants to reward him for his loyalty or whatever. And ever since the Alfie fiasco, they basically decided, okay, he's going to be like the guy we're going to basically put in the rafters. He's going to be the first number we retire because we have no one else right now. Would have been Alfie. He's gone. Let's make sure we don't lose another one of our, like, quote-unquote legacy players. The problem with that is that he's not very good anymore. He's a slow, kind of immobile, he's a big guy, but gone are the days where you need a defenseman to just clear people out of the crease. You need people to be able to be mobile, move with the puck itself. He can't do a lot of these things very well anymore. So, yeah, he got played a lot, and I wasn't particularly happy about that. Then there was Joe Corvo, who we signed to a one-year deal. He was not great. He eventually got waived. He didn't get waived. He got sent down and then loaned to the Chicago Wolves AHL team, just basically as a favor to him because his family lived there. So we didn't even feel like putting him in Binghamton. We just said, all right, you're gone. So then we had, who do we have? Mark Borvietsky. He showed up for a few games from Binghamton. He's a solid worker. He hits people hard. He works hard. He's not great with the puck, but you know, it's one of those character things where you like having him there because he works hard and he's a decent depth defenseman, I guess. And then we had Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci is a first-round pick from a couple years ago. He spent the first parts of the season in Binghamton and then was called up. I don't know if you remember Blake, but in his first or second NHL game, I want to say, he scored the overtime goal against St. Louis.
That would be
which
correct,
was
yes.
One of the few highlights of the season.
Yes.
He's from Ottawa. He was born in I think Orleans or something like that. He played hockey here both before junior and in junior. He played for the 67s in Ottawa, and then he was drafted by Ottawa. So he was one of those feel-good stories. And then he, as I said, he won that game against St. Got So it's nice seeing him play, and he was honestly one of our better defensemen. He didn't struggle that much defensively. He got better as the season went on, and he definitely has offensive skills. So yeah, I was happy seeing him play a lot. He stayed up for the entire season after his initial call up, which was nice to see.
Alrighty. And next would be the goaltending. I know you start with Craig Anderson, and I don't remember if he was injured or he just, wasn't all that great that year. But then you bring in Robin Leonard, and he does okay, he just shows everyone that he's got a lot of promise.
Yeah, pretty much. So Anderson, he played I think most of the games of the season. He got injured once, I think. He was out for 3 or 4 games, I think. Beyond that, though, he was on the roster for the majority of the season. He just wasn't very good. I don't know what it was. He, as people have pointed out, when you look at his statistical record over his career, he'll have an amazing season, like 2009, 2010 in Colorado. He had a ridiculous record, ridiculous stats. Almost he carried Colorado into the playoffs and won a few games for them against the heavily favored San Jose Sharks. And then the next season, he was very, very poor to start the season. And then he was traded to us for Brian Elliott straight up, who was also having a terrible season for us. And then he had a good year in his first full year with us. Not great, not exceptional, but good. And then last year, or 2012, 2013, the lockout season, he had that unreal season where even though he was injured for a good part of it, the games he played, he was a wall. It was absolutely amazing to watch. I think he ended with a .941 save percentage in 24 games, and it was just amazing to watch. And then he basically carried us to the second round past Montreal. This season, he struggled hard. He had very few good games. He either had a terrible game or he'd have a mediocre game, and those were the ones where we would maybe have a chance to win. If he was having a bad game, we really couldn't do much, just because anytime we felt like anything was going well, he'd let in, a goal from behind the goal line, which happened way more than it should, or a wraparound, things like that. Just very simple things where, just hug the post. It's a simple thing an NHL goalie should do. He just had those mental lapses, and they would just go right through him. Then there's Robin Leonard. Robin Leonard is probably my favorite player in the organization. I don't know what it is about him, but I just love watching him play. He is this huge Swedish goalie. He's 6'3", 235 or something like that. He's just this huge guy, and he's really quick for his size too. He's just fun to watch. He makes those great left to right pad saves on 2-on-1s routinely. He doesn't have to move a lot to make saves just because he's so massive. But at the same time, when he needs to, he's willing to put his all into it. Whenever you watch Dominic Hasek highlights, you see how he's just no, I'm going to stop this puck. Fuck this. Where is it? I'm going to stop it. He has that kind of mentality where he does not care what he has to do. He wants to stop that puck, and he wants to be the guy to lead the team to a victory. I think 3 years ago, Binghamton won the Calder Cup, and he was the AHL MVP because he had insane stats in the playoffs. He's one of those players, like a Danny Briere kind of thing, where once you get in those pressure situations, especially the playoffs, he steps it up and becomes the guy. He will just play out of his mind. He did it. There was one game against Boston a couple years ago where Boston was, on a really hot streak. We were struggling a bit, and I think Anderson was injured, so Leonard had to come in, and we won the game 1-0 just basically because of him. He knew it was a big game. He knew he had to step up, and he absolutely did, just against the powerhouse Bruins, and it was amazing to watch. And then since then, we've pretty much had Leonard play in every single game against Boston, because Anderson's not very good, especially against Boston.
Alrighty, and to wrap up the previous season overview, let's talk about the coaching of Paul McLean and staff.
Well, like the season itself, Paul McLean was a frustrating figure last season. We loved him the first 2 years that he was a coach. He had a nomination for Jack Adams in his first year. In his second year, he won the Jack Adams, so we thought, man, we've got a great coach in our hands. And I still think he's a really good coach, but even he admitted he like did a lot of stuff this year and like sort of changed his attitude and did a lot of things that just kind of puzzled a lot of people. He would, although it was explained like because Ryan had the injury, you could see he was putting players like Bobby Ryan and Mika Zibanejad in strange situations where, despite the fact that Bobby Ryan and his entire line was like the only one scoring, the only one doing really well, he'd move Bobby Ryan to like the third line, play him for like 12 minutes, and then give like Chris Neal like an 18-minute night. It's one of those things where I get when players do what you ask them, you want to reward them, but at the same time, when you say, okay, Chris Neal, I want you to dump and chase and then hit people, that's a lot easier for him to accomplish than saying to Bobby Ryan, we need you to score goals in order for us to win. You set the different standards for the players, and when you reward them to that degree, it kind of skews the lineup because you'd see the Kyle Turris, Bobby Ryan, Clark MacArthur line not playing very much on nights when they seemingly have really good shifts. And then I know I'm going to piss people off by talking bad about Chris Neal, but he's just not going to win you games on his own, whereas Bobby Ryan very well could, and that line often did win us games. Chris Neal, I guess he provides the energy, but he's not going to score goals. He's not going to like change the momentum of a game that often, and yet he's playing more than that line, more than like our top two lines for that matter, at a more frequent basis than I think most people would like. So then you'd have things like, yeah, Chris Neal would play a lot. He'd go on the power play. Who thinks Chris Neal on the power play is a good idea? Like it's silly. And then one of the few bright spots of the season was when Anderson got injured in November. Robin Lehner came in and played 3 games in a row, and we went on a 3-game winning streak, which was the first streak of any sort we'd gone on, mainly because of Lehner. He was playing exceptionally well. So then Anderson comes back from his injury, and everyone thinks, well, we got to ride the hot hand right now. When Lehner comes back down to earth, we'll return to Andy, because right now we're in a position to really help ourselves. And Paul McLean just went out and said, Anderson's going to start our next game because, quote, he's our number 1 goalie. And by this point in the season, Anderson's stats were abysmal. They were in like the 890s for save percentage. His goals against average was like above 4. There was no sign that he was doing well or getting any better. Meanwhile, we had Robin Lehner, who's done very well to like wait his turn, wait for his shot to show that he's like an exceptional goalie. He can be a number 1. This seemed to be his shot, and then Anderson just came in and resumed being terrible. And it's decisions like that that kind of, I think, confused a lot of the people on the team. Because I remember there was an interview with Robin Lehner soon after that game where one of the reporters asked him, do you think you can be a number 1 or you can like challenge for the starter role by the end of the season or next season? And he said something along the lines of, no, I think I'm okay in my role as the backup. I recognize my role within the team. I'll just, I'll play when the coach asks me, and then the rest of the time I'll do my best to support Anderson. And that really annoyed me because A, Lehner had been the better goalie up to that point, and B, Lehner plays his best when he's motivated, when he wants to like win, when he wants to succeed. And Paul McLean saying, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to be the backup this season, that just killed all his motivation he had. You could see it. He didn't want to try as hard anymore because he knew it didn't really matter that much. So then from that point on, Lehner rarely had a good game after that. Anderson, to his credit, got better from January onwards, but those were like a lot of those games were too late. We weren't getting back in the playoffs. His good games would be like, average for other goalies. So yeah, Paul McLean made a lot of interesting personnel choices. He'd start Matt Cassian a lot more than I would like. He'd sit Patrick Wierkosh a lot more than I would like. He'd play certain players a lot more than I would like, and he'd bench players more than I'd like. So, I forgot about the one big one. He paired Jared Cowan, our worst defenseman, with Erik Karlsson, our best defenseman. I get the idea behind it. He wanted to try and sort of insulate Cowan, make him be better, I guess, or at least not have as many exploitive situations. But putting him on the top pairing is just going to bring Carlson down, and it did. Carlson was just struggling to deal with him, and then he'd have bad games himself. If Cowan's doing really badly, he should be put either in the press box or on the bottom pairing. Don't put him on the top pairing. A player's struggling, you don't put him on the top line. Who thinks that's a good idea? So things like that, they were frustrating about Paul McLean, and he's made statements since then about how he thinks he needs to go back to his previous attitude from the previous seasons, which I think is promising for next season. But this season there were a lot of choices that just puzzled a lot of Sens fans.
Alrighty. Now we'll move ahead into the current, the off season, and we'll talk about free agent and or trade acquisitions for Ottawa. The biggest name coming to Ottawa would probably be David Legwan, but the biggest names going out of Ottawa most certainly would be Spezza and Ales Hemsky. Just kind of go over these big names and where else Ottawa made a splash.
All right, so for the Spezza trade, if I remember correctly, we traded Jason Spezza to Dallas for a second-round pick, Alex Chason, and two prospects. They were Nick Paul, I think, and I forget the name of the other one. You might want to help me out, Blake, if you remember.
Oh, I do not.
Okay, so basically it was just I think it was Alex Guptill, something along those lines. I remember his last name was Guptill. So, as you probably can tell, they're not typically noteworthy prospects because I don't really know their names very well. And Alex Chason, I've heard his name now and then. The big thing about him was I think he scored 12 goals in his first 12 NHL games, which was, it was really good to watch, but at the same time, you could tell it was one of those things where it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be an amazing prospect or an amazing player. He was just on a really, really good hot streak. So since then, hasn't scored a huge amount of goals. He's still, I think that he was in his second season last year, so he's definitely still got time to grow. But him and the other two players that came in the deal, there's not a lot of promise behind them. Even the Dallas Stars and the Ottawa Senators organization were both yeah, we'll just see how they do. They didn't. Brian Murray, I think, either forgot their names or didn't know anything about the prospects when he dealt for them. So you could tell his hands were kind of tied. So essentially, it's just a kind of, yeah, let's hope these work out kind of deal. Meanwhile, Jason Spezza gets to go to Dallas, play with Ales Hemsky, who he had amazing chemistry with and absolutely lit it up with. Even though his back is, kind of messed up, he's had 2 major back surgeries in his career, he's still only 30, so, he has good years left in him. I think he can do phenomenally next year because he's healthy going into the offseason, and usually those are his best seasons, I think. Even if the team was struggling, especially 2007 to 2010, when he had healthy years, he did pretty well. Although maybe I suppose this season was the exception. This season was odd. But yeah, so lose Spezza to Dallas, Hemsky goes there. I remember seeing the offer we made to Hemsky, which was $3.3 million for the next 3 years, that much money each year for the next 3 years. And I remember looking at that and going, wow, we're not even trying, are we? Because that was a paid decrease from what he was making previously. And you knew he, A, wanted to go to free agency just to try it out, see how much teams would value him. And B, if you're tempted to be with the organization that just traded for you, it kind of sucks when they lowball you like that, especially when you know they need to be realistic in order to retain your rights and get you to sign a contract. I don't even know why they made that offer to Hemsky, to be honest, because there was no way in hell he was ever going to sign that. And then Spezza left. The writing was kind of on the wall, so I could see why Hemsky didn't want to be there anymore, because he really liked Spezza, and that was a big factor for him in leaving. Yeah, so I'm going to watch a lot of Dallas Stars game this year and just kind of sigh a lot while drinking beer, just thinking, oh, It was nice while that lasted. We had that one Alex Hemsky goal against Tampa Bay. That was really cool. Jason Spezza had like a fantastic career here, but it's over, unfortunately, and I wish them luck. Hopefully not against us, but I have a feeling Jason Spezza is going to tear us a new one when he sees this. So, yeah, that's all I've got on them. It sucks seeing them leave, but it was kind of inevitable when you just look at our situation. Do we want to talk about like other free agents as well?
Yes.
Or trades? Okay. Let me think. The only free agent signing I can really think we made, we might have signed like AHL guys or something, but the biggest one we had, and that's in quotes because it's not a huge deal. We signed David Legwand to a 2-year deal for $3 million each season. Now, I don't have a problem with the signing, and actually, I like the signing. It's just that it's not going to fix our team. There's a lot more issues with our team, especially on defense. A lot of people were hoping we would somehow, either through free agency or trade, be able to fix our defense. But we signed a defensive center, which is good, but he's only one part of the problem. And honestly, we have a lot of defensive centers. Kyle Turris is a very good defensive center. Dave Tippett taught him a lot before he, skedaddled out of Phoenix. Mika Zibanejad is solid defensively. David Legwand's obviously a good defensive center. Zach Smith's our resident PK guy essentially, and then Jean-Gabriel Pajot, who might see some time. I don't know if you guys remember him. Yeah, he might get some time in the roster as well if he does well. And they're all their main specialties are more or less defense. But the problem is we just have no real defense. We have people that just kind of can't handle a puck very well and struggle when they have the puck in their own end. So David Legwand, I have no problem with the signing. It's probably a good signing. He's cheap, obviously a good thing. And he'll probably be our third line center in the upcoming season. But yeah, there's a lot of other issues, and considering that this was the only real deal we made in free agency, it wasn't particularly encouraging. I don't want us to blow our brains out in free agency, as Eugene Melnick would say, but we don't necessarily have to in order to improve our team. We don't need to go full Washington and sign Orpik and Niskanen to outrageous contracts to fix our defense. There are other ways to do it, but we haven't done anything yet.
And looking forward into the off-season and the free agency and the trading period, would you expect to see the team do other things, and would that compare to excuse me, and would that compare to if you would like to see the team make some more moves?
Well, I know there's a lot of rumors going out from the Ottawa Sun and whatnot about how Brian Murray wants to trade for another top 6 forward. And this seems pretty much to be the common theme of Brian Murray over the last 12 months or so, is that we're going to try to get another top 6 forward. Which, while all well and good, especially if it's a good top 6 forward, we don't need another top 6 forward. We've got a pretty solid top 6 right now. And we really should be focusing on our defense. Going into the trade deadline, what was our main problem? We were giving up too many goals, giving up too many shots. Our defense was porous. What did we do? We traded for Alex Hemsky, which, while, was a good thing and it was fun to watch, we still had the same problem of, oh, yeah, we can't let in less than 3 goals a game, ever. So, it's just this problem of, I don't understand what Brian Murray's obsession with a top 6 forward really is. He seems to have this idea that it's going to fix a lot, or at least alleviate some of the problems, but unless it's some outrageous top 6 forward no one sees being traded, or no one expects being traded, I don't think it's really a big priority for us, and yet it seems to be what we're focusing on mostly this offseason. I remember during the season, Chris Stewart was mentioned a lot. It seems like Brian Murray kind of has a hard-on for him. I don't know why. As you have told me, he's meh.
He he only scores on terrible goalies. That's my
Yeah,
thing on him.
that's not the sort of main player trait you want in a guy you're trading for. So he seemed to think, yeah, Brian Murray just wanted him. I think he wanted him at the deadline, couldn't get a trade through. I still think he might want him this offseason. Beyond that, I don't think they're going to do anything else. I don't even know if that top 6 trade is going to go through. It came up like about a month ago, then died down. Now it's come back up. I imagine this is just the organization kind of leaking these kinds of things and saying like, okay, we have interest. Like, let's see if we can get something going here. Yeah, I don't expect a lot to happen. I would love if we got, a top 4 defenseman, but, what NHL team wouldn't? There's not many that we can really go for. Like, the top 4 defensemen, like centermen and like starting goalies, are kind of like a premium. You can't get them easily, and when they're like available from one team, like 29 other teams are going for them. So I don't know anyone that we could trade for that would be a good top 4 defenseman, and I don't expect us to really get one.
Alrighty, and now looking at the other big to-do in the off-season, the NHL draft. Give us your just your overall grade. B minus plus whatever.
I didn't pay too much attention to this year's draft, mainly because we didn't have a first-round pick. So I'm going to go ahead and say, since we only had like 5, we originally only had 4 picks, because we had a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th round pick. We traded the rest for random stuff. We got 1 more pick in the 7th round, so we had 5 picks, and none of them seemed particularly encouraging. Well, I don't want to say particularly encouraging. Like, it's not like they did anything bad. It's just that when your first pick in the draft is 40th overall, you can't expect much, really. Our 40th overall pick was a Swedish defenseman by the name of Andreas Englund. He played in the 2nd-tier Swedish league for Djurgården. And as far as I can tell, he's just like, he'd probably be a 5'6" defenseman if he like fulfills his potential. Maybe 3'4" if he goes above that. But there's not a huge expectation put on him. He's just a guy who's solid defensively and can move the puck. But we'll see how he translates to the NHL if he ever makes it. Beyond that, we drafted Miles Gendron, Shane Yzerman, spelled differently than the other Yzerman, Kelly Summers, and then Francis Perron, who are all just, very unknown players, more or less. Miles Gendron was drafted out of a high school. Shane Yzerman and Kelly Summers, or Shane Yzerman was drafted out of the USHL. Francis Perron, QMJHL, and Kelly Summers was the, I think like the Carlton. He was playing for Carlton Place, which is like, it's definitely not junior. It's like a step below junior or something like that. So he wasn't playing in the OHL or anything. So I'd give it like a C plus, I guess, because seems pretty average. They didn't do anything terrible. It's not like we went off the board, I don't think. But at the same time, no first round pick, only 5 picks in total. There wasn't much we could really do. This wasn't a year where we were trying to like acquire a lot of picks and put more prospects in the cupboard. This was a year where we decided to sacrifice picks in order to improve our roster now. And I think we did that, but yeah, the draft was kind of just an afterthought, more or less.
All right, and now we will look ahead into the next season and kind of talk about where you feel where you could see realistically Ottawa ending up in the final standings.
Unlike most people, I don't see them as finishing like bottom 2 in the league. I feel like a lot of fans would probably say that about their team, but I think a lot of the reason people think we're going to be that terrible is just because we had such promise last season, and we were such a huge disappointment that we are somehow going to be like super terrible. Now, we lost Spezza, we lost Hemsky, but I'm pretty sure like Anderson's not going to have as shitty a year as he did last year. And if he does, I think Robin Leonard will like have another really good year, especially since he's another year older, another year closer to being the number one. So he's going to be motivated. Yeah, the main reason we did really terribly was because our defense had absolutely no confidence with the puck, and our goalies couldn't stop anything. And I don't see both those things happening again. And even though those things happened last year, we finished. I want to give me a moment here. We finished 3 spots out of the wild card in the East, which not great, but like we finished 36 points above Buffalo. So there's not a lot that we lost that makes me think we're going to be bottom 1-2. Like we're not going to battle hard for McDavid. We very well may battle, but we're not going to battle super hard for McDavid unless something catastrophic happens. Knock on wood, because it would be our luck for Carlson to get another injury or something shitty like that. I honestly, though, there's so many variables involved. I could see us going anywhere from like just missing the playoffs to being bottom 5. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on that will change the outcome of that. I don't think we'll make the playoffs. I think we'll be about the same as last year. But we're not gonna go on this like terrible streak where we lose like all our games in a month or anything and then just plummet to the basement and then battle for McDavid. I think we have good pieces, and a lot of the younger players will have another year to get slightly better, which can pull us out of that funk. But yeah, I don't think we're going to fare particularly well.
Alrighty, and now to wrap up this interview here, we'll touch on our miscellaneous questions here. For starters, give us a timetable, less than 5 years, 5 years, something like that, of when you can see Ottawa making it into the playoffs.
I'm going to say, again, variables. There's just so many things that could go right or wrong. I'm going to say not this year, but the year after we'll make it. Because I think by then, assuming we re-sign Bobby Ryan, assuming we re-sign Clark MacArthur, assuming our defense has gotten better in the 2 years since then, and assuming Anderson's gone and Leonard's our number one, which I think is going to happen sooner rather than later, I think we can make it back into the playoffs. Because there's just a lot of our struggles were a result of kids, essentially. Like, I know I'm saying that being a 21-year-old, but we did basically have like a lot of players under 23 playing in like significant roles, and you could tell a lot of the time they were just way above. They were above their heads. They couldn't handle it a lot of the time, and in 2 years, I think they'll adjust. They'll be better. Some of our players that we have in the system now, like Cody Ceci, Curtis Lazar, they'll be like a more integral part of the system. If Bobby Ryan and Clark MacArthur re-sign, that line will actually, like, I have full faith they're going to continue to play absolutely outstanding hockey for the next like 3 or 4 or 5 years. So don't think we'll make it next year. If all goes well, we re-sign the right players, maybe add some nice pieces. I think we'll do well the year after that.
Alrighty, and now more into just the upcoming season. Who would you think would be your top goals and or points getter?
Goals, I'm going to say Bobby Ryan, because he had a sports hernia for the majority of last season, but he still played like phenomenally. And in the period before, like he said, he got the sports hernia sometime in November. I think it was the game against Dallas. Previous to that, he was at a point per game, and he had like 10 goals in 12 games or something like that. It was silly. Like you could tell this guy is like one of the purest goal scorers you'll see in the league. But he has there are so many skills about Bobby Ryan I did not know he had. He is a fantastic I don't want to say defensive forward, but he's amazing at creating turnovers and just picking the pockets of other players. He can like just pop out of nowhere and then just little tap of the stick and then he's gone and he scored a goal. It's amazing to watch considering just he's a large guy. You don't expect him to be like that shifty or that agile, but he does a lot of things well. So I think he'll probably be our top goal scorer. I imagine he'll get 30 something goals because that seems to be his thing. As for points, it's got to be Carlson. Carlson is the engine that drives our team, especially on offense. And if he's paired with that Bobby Ryan line a lot of the time, which I imagine he will, and gets time on the PP, which he always does, he's gonna get 70 plus points again. Because even a year where he struggled, he went from having a career year, 78 points 2 years ago, to having a quote-unquote down year and got 74 points. So, yeah, I can see him getting 70 points again easily, and he's probably going to lead our team.
Alrighty, and the final question. Let us say, everything that could go wrong does go wrong. Who do you see would be the target, the public enemy number one by the fan base, by the media, etc.?
Eugene Melnick. He's already pretty much public enemy number one. I don't think I need to go into the specifics as to why. I just think the longer this team continues to struggle, the more heat he's going to be under. If you want an actual player, it all depends on how players play next year. If Cowan has another really bad year, he's going to be burned at the stake. He's under a lot of pressure right now, and if he doesn't respond well next season, things could go dark very quickly for him. Beyond that, I don't know who's going to be captain next season. I personally don't think we should have a captain. Even though, Phillips and Neal have been here for how long, I don't think they're the kinds of players you want to be captain, because Phillips plays 12 minutes a night on the third pairing. Neal also plays 12 minutes a night, fourth line. Those aren't really the kinds of players you want to be captain. You want to see your captain on the ice a lot, just, playing good hockey. So even though I think the organization will feel obligated to give probably Phillips the captaincy, if they don't give it to anyone, the blame will sort of be passed around between players. If they give the captaincy to someone, I think that player's going to take a lot of blame. Because considering how much blame Jason Spezza took last season, I can only imagine it's only going to get worse as this team continues to struggle. So, yeah, whoever's following in Alfie's footsteps for the next few years, if this team struggles, they're going to get a lot of heat. And that's part of the reason I don't want Carlson to become the captain yet. I think he could be captain one day. That day is not now. He's still trying to figure out his own game. He's struggling with his own self-confidence issues and just working out his game. That doesn't need to be another thing on his own mind. I remember Patrick Eliash, he was named captain for New Jersey, and apparently he struggled a lot, and then he had to give it up because it was just another thing on his mind, and he was struggling too much. I feel like the same sort of thing would happen with Carlson. So give him a few more years to develop to become a more reliable, responsible player, and then we can give him the captaincy, especially if Phillips retires, which he's going to soon. If Phillips gets the captaincy, I can see him getting a lot of flack this year. So between Melnick, Cowan, Phillips, and Carlson, it could go a lot of different ways, just depending on how this offseason goes and next season.
Alrighty. Before we wrap things up here this evening, Dave, if you could give us a preview of the teams we will be covering next week.
We will be covering the Nashville Predators and the newly christened Arizona Coyotes.
Yes. And we're all going to have to get used to that. It's going to be Arizona this time, yes. The Phoenix, Arizona, Glendale, Tucson Coyotes. I don't know.
Just all of them hyphenated.
Yes. Well, alrighty. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks again to Jordan for joining us, talking about his Winnipeg Jets. You can find him on Reddit. His username is Rhythm Malfunction with a hyphen in there, I believe.
Yep.
You can find him on Twitter at RYT Malfunction. And thank you, Daniel, for joining us, talking about your Ottawa Senators. You can find Daniel very conveniently on Twitter and Reddit, both with the username Jump to Shark. For the Wooden Ball Show, I am Blake. You can find me on Reddit. My username is btownbomb. You can find me on Twitter. My username is @Shattenmykirk. And you can find, and for my co-host Dave, you can find him on Reddit. His username is Blinson, and you can find him on Twitter. His handle is @Blinson1. For our hockey cast, stay tuned tonight. I believe we once again have another exciting episode of the Our Hockey Cast After Hour.
Maybe they haven't posted in a couple weeks, so I don't know if they're gonna have it.
Yes, that is true. Well,
I think it's because one of the co-hosts is doing the college thing right now, so.
well, that is true. Yes. Well, then I suppose they are on a hiatus, but hey,
Well, they might be on.
if they are to return, it's a really great show. You'll get your hockey information, and there's a lot of side gags too going on there. So
A lot.
here's to hoping they come back soon. But for our hockey cast, you can find us on Twitter. Our username is @OurHockeyCast. You can find our subreddit, that is Our HockeyCast. You can find us on our website, OurHockeyCast.com, where you can find past episodes on this program, and also the YouTube account, that is Our HockeyCast, where you can also look up some archived episodes.
Right.
And yes, I believe we are concluding.
Anybody have anything else they want to say?
Thanks for having me on. It was a good time. I also want to wish Brian Murray good luck. He's started his battle with cancer, unfortunately. So
Oh no.
hopefully,
Good luck to him.
Brian Murray's a tough bastard. He's gonna give it his all. So yeah, wish him luck. Wish him well. Best of health to him, and hopefully he's back to trying to get this team on the right track again very soon.
Thoughts go out to him. Anything else for you, Jordan?
I just want to say thanks for having me. It was kind of nice to get to vent about Evander Kane and a little bit about the Jets.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. And I hope all you listeners, hope you guys all have a great night. Bye.
See ya.